The first sound was wrong. It was the strike of iron on stone, but too far away, and too muffled to be part of the work in the yard. Agnes had learned to know every noise in the old priory, the wheeze of the bellows, the scrape of boots on flagstone, the restless muttering of the pigs in their pen. But this sound, faint as if through a wall of earth, did not belong. She stopped, holding the wash bucket against her hip, her hands red with soap, her breath catching in the cold air. For a moment, only silence answered. Then the sound came again, metal tapping against stone, steady and deliberate, far below her feet. The priory had been built on old ground. Agnes had heard the brothers speak of it in their careful Latin, how the stones were carried from ruins older than Christ, how the walls had risen over buried rooms no one could map. She was not meant to know such things, but when one spends her days sweeping, fetching, and emptying chamber pots, she learns much from what others forget to hide. She bent, set down the bucket, and pressed her ear to the worn slabs of the cloister walk. Nothing. Only the faint, steady throb of her own blood. And yet, she knew what she had heard. The day went on, as days did. She beat the dust from linens. She scrubbed grease from platters. She carried water until her shoulders burned. Yet each time her foot struck stone, she imagined the hollowness beneath, imagined men still digging in blackness far below. By vespers, her nerves were frayed. The bell tolled through the dusk, its voice carrying across the bare fields. The brothers filed into the chapel, their chants a slow, mournful tide. Agnes slipped to her place in the side alcove, the servants' corner. She kept her eyes low, as always. But the sound returned, faint, but clear, a single clang echoing through the stones beneath her feet. None of the others stirred. None of the brothers faltered in their singing. She pressed her hands together, tight, as if to crush the trembling in her bones. That night, she lay on her straw mattress in the narrow cell given to the women who worked the kitchens. Sleep would not come. Each creak of timber, each drip of water through the old roof, turned into the sound of iron against rock. When, at last, her eyes closed, she dreamed of steps descending into soil, steps worn smooth by feet that had never walked the earth above. The next morning, she rose with her head full of ash. Her hands shook as she carried the bread to the refectory. She dared, once, to mention the sound to the elder maid, but the woman only pursed her lips and made the sign of the cross. "The earth keeps what it holds," she whispered, as if that were answer enough. Agnes tried to bury the thought. Days passed in sameness. The weather turned, rain soaking the cloister, the stones slick underfoot. And yet, the sound deepened. No longer just a strike, but a dragging, a shuffle, as though something pressed against the underfloor passages, searching for a way through. One evening, when the brothers had retired to their dormitory, she lingered by the cloister's edge, lantern in hand. The rain had ceased. The night was thick with fog, the kind that swallows shapes whole. She set the lantern low and tapped the stone with her knuckle. The sound answered. Not in echo, but in reply. Her breath caught. The lantern flame quivered. And slowly, steadily, beneath the very slab on which she knelt, came 3 answering knocks. She fled. She did not remember dropping the lantern, nor how she found her cell again. All night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the stone to split open beneath her bed. The days after blurred. She told no one. What words could she use? That the priory's floor replied when spoken to? That something unseen moved in darkness older than the church itself? Her silence cost her sleep, and her silence made her clumsy. Once, she spilled broth across the refectory table, and the prior's gaze burned her to the marrow. Another time, she left sheets damp, and the elder maid cuffed her ear. The world above pressed harder, while the world below stirred restless. It was on a Sunday, after the high mass, that she heard the final sound. The brothers had gone to eat, the chapel empty but for candlelight and dust. Agnes lingered at the basin, wringing a cloth. And then she heard it, not iron, not shuffling, but a voice. A man's voice, low, rising through the flagstones. Words she could not understand, drawn out like chant, yet hollow, broken by distance. She dropped the cloth. Her knees weakened, her hands grasping for the wall. The voice spoke once, twice, and then fell silent. She told herself she had imagined it, that her weary mind had woven dream into waking. But when she bent to retrieve the fallen cloth, she found the stone beneath warm, as though someone's breath still lingered just below. That night, she lay on her bed, eyes open, heart clattering in her chest. Every sound in the priory seemed sharpened, the drip of rain, the creak of beams, the distant cough of a sleeping brother. But beneath it all, she felt the stone's warmth, seeping upward, a presence that would not fade. She dared not sleep. She dared not move. For though the voice had gone silent, she knew with certainty that it waited still, not below, but at the threshold, where stone meets air, listening for her to answer.